Hello, lowborn babes. I'm Aubrey.
And I'm Peyton.
And today we are discussing JLA's latest, The Fall of Ruin and Wrath.
Yes, so join us with a cup of coffee as we dive between these paper sheets.
All right.
Let's do it. Okay, so as always, first in our episode, we are going to start with the non-spoiler section, and then after we're done, we will let you know, and we will get right into the spoilers. I like to know sometimes what I'm jumping into, but I will say in this book, we had no idea what we were jumping into, so if that's what you choose to do, come back after you're done reading the book. But there are no spoilers in this section. So this is JLA's first book in her new series called The Awakening, which I didn't know it was called The Awakening until I went to go write the script for this episode. But maybe this will make more sense in the next book. So anyways, as I said, we had no idea what was going on getting into this, but we have finished it, we have thoughts, and we're going to give you a little plot recap because this is fantasy, so I don't want to ruin anything. But this is something good to know going into the book.
Yes, so this book is, like Peyton said, the first in the Awakening series, and it follows the story of Liz, a lowborn with powers of intuition and insight. When her path collides with a mysterious highborn, she finds herself playing a dangerous political game while trying to fight her attraction to him and her mysterious powers of intuition.
Yes. So this is like super just like different because since she's lowborn, we are very much introduced to a character that has no status, which a lot of times in fantasy books they're like, oh, they're the princess, or they're like holy in some way, or like protected, and so it's interesting kind of being like, oh, you're like, she's an orphan. So it was fun jumping like into that. And there's of course like this whole like she has this crazy intuition, and I was watching a live stream Q&A with JLA right before the book came out, and she was giving no spoilers, which love her, but she was saying a lot how Liz has a hard time making connections because of her intuition. Whenever she's around or touches someone, she is like flooded with their thoughts and sometimes gets visions of like the future. So that leads to quite the crazy story.
I really like the spin of her powers with this. If any of you guys have read the From Blood and Ash series, which I'm assuming most people came to this book because of reading her From Blood and Ash series, like Poppy has this power, intuition, feeling thing where sometimes when she touches people, she can sense their emotions and then she can like project emotions back on them. But so it's interesting to see, like, one, I feel like JLA has like kind of like a favorite for that. I mean, she definitely has a favorite for vampires. She definitely has a favorite for like the girlies having these like empath powers. But I will say that Lisa's powers are definitely different, and I kind of liked it. It also let her meta game a little bit, because there are times in the book where, you know, as the author, she like needs the character to do X, Y, and Z. And I feel like in a lot of series, especially like romance books, you're like, well, why did they do that? Like, why the fuck would the character do that? Like, why did you give me, or like the miscommunication trope? But because her powers are this like intuition, JLA got to be like, you get a powerful sensation that you need to do this right now, and you're just like, as the reader, you're like, yeah, that makes sense. Of course, it's her powers. Like, God is literally speaking to her.
So, like I said, I don't want to talk too much about it because this book is just one big like spoil. But the powers are like a huge part of it. And it's funny to see how, because she is a lowborn and she comes from nothing and she is an orphan, it's interesting to see from beginning to end how her life changes. Of course, similar to other JLA books we have read, it's very similar. I will say these main characters do read the same. I see a lot of Poppy. I see a lot of Sarah. I actually see a really
Mhm.
good mix. Like, if you combine Sarah and Poppy, I feel like that would be Callista. So
Yeah.
I do see like more the maturity of Sarah and the, you know, innocence and immaturity of Poppy mixed together in
Mhm.
Callista. And during this live Q&A with JLA, she talked about how she relates most out of all of her girl characters to Callisto. So there's
Okay.
a lot of projection. That's the reason. She said in this book, Calista Liss really likes the garden, and she said that
Yeah.
she put that in there because she likes the garden.
That's
So
so funny. But like honestly, I kind of liked it because I feel like her projecting that, like if it happens too much with every character, then you kind of lose it.
yeah,
But her like Kalisa's interests or whatever felt strong and it felt authentic, and I guess that's why.
yeah, because
She's just kind of
she
like,
was writing from a place of like, you know, realness.
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so going into the book in general, like general thoughts,
Mhm.
I have very strong feelings about certain elements of this book. I don't like reading reviews or seeing people's star ratings before I jump into
Yeah.
the book. There's a couple of my friends on Goodreads that read this book, and it seemed like it was gonna be great jumping into. Now, I do have to preface this and say that I have had an incredibly busy and stressful couple weeks. So
Yes.
reading this book was a huge priority, but I also felt like I had to read it. But that
Mhm.
means I read it in a short amount of time. And I will say that the first 40% of the book or so for me was quite the drag.
Yeah.
I feel like it didn't really pick up until the last, I don't know, half, even 15%.
There's not a lot of plot going on. This is a very character-based book. And
Yeah,
so, like, especially if you are trying to speed read and you're like, nothing is fucking happening, you're right, nothing is happening.
yeah, it's nothing really happens in the beginning of this book, and I just feel like it's over 400 pages long, and it just
Mhm.
feels like a very long prequel for the actions and politics that will hopefully start in the next book. I feel
Yeah.
like, I said this when we reviewed Divine Rivals, and like I half meant it, but I am honest. Like, I'm very excited to read the second book in this series. I will be reading the second book in this series. But why? Like, JLA is known for this, but why did it have to take me to the last chapter to decide that? Why? Like, why did it
Yeah.
take so long? So I really hope that everyone has read this and sticks around to hear exactly why I feel that way. And there's certain things about this book I'm just like, no, I'm good. But I do feel like this is just a prequel.
I did not have that feeling going into this book. Now, I will say that there's also this book. So, Lise is not, she's like, her position in the book is a courtesan type person to, what is he, like the Duke or something?
He's the Baron. Yeah.
Baron. So she's in this position where she, like, the culture of the house that they're in is very, very like sex and drug forward, and the way that it's set up makes it so that there is a lot of smut in this book, like continually, like as you read, and it's not always with the love interest. It's like it's just a very like sex forward book, which for romantasy I feel like can be part of it. But I know that Peyton, you also don't like smut heavy books.
Yeah, there's way too much smut in this book.
But like for me, like I don't know, the smut like keeps like the spice keeps it moving for me. Like I'll like reach it and I'll be like, okay, reset, and it'll like help propel me forward in a story. And I don't think it does that for you. So
No.
like I was reading it and I was like, this is good. Like I like loved seeing the characters, and a little bit of smut every now and then just like makes me read the book a little bit faster.
So like smut every now and then, yes. Like I need smut. Like Divine Rivals, I was like, this is ridiculous. Like
Yeah.
like this, like there's like super romantic, which is funny that I didn't love that book because I love romance versus just, like straight like effing around.
Yeah.
I don't love that, but this book, I think there were things that were just, and I will get into them in the spoiler section. It's just a little cringy, and
Okay.
I read it and I was like, ugh, like, okay. Like, they would say stuff and I'm like, you just met. Like, you,
Yes.
and they literally, like, you didn't even, like, you hated him a second ago and now you're okay with, like, there's smut. There's so much smut. But, like, similar, like, I think, I was thinking a lot about, The Witcher in this book. It reminded me kind of like Yennefer. And kind of how, like, she is kind of thrown into that, and watch the Witcher series if you want to know what I mean. I don't want to spoil anything, but she's just a very sexualized character, and I feel like that's kind of the position Liz was put in, not by her own choosing. But anyways, yes, too much smut like, for me, but I wouldn't say, like, don't read it because there's too much smut. Like, there's a lot of story, but the romance was just kind of like, like, it's the first book. Can't we have a little bit of a slow burn? Like, please.
So that is a thing that this is like, I think it's just going to be a trilogy.
I hope so.
For a trilogy, I mean, I feel like the weird thing, so this book is one of the initial books published with Bramble, which is a new Tor offshoot, specifically for romantasy books. So specifically for books that are 50% romance, 50% fantasy. And I think this book hits like the fucking nail for that. Like, I think it's a very good romantasy book. But the awkward thing about romantasy is that usually romance books are standalones. You know, you watch the love story unfold and then it ends. But then fantasy books are usually trilogies or plus even more. You know, you can have fantasy books that are like 15-book series and it makes sense. And so I feel like that and I've seen it in other books as of late, where they, like, you have to have so much romance in the first book to make it 50% romance. But then I'm like, I know in the back of my head that this is a trilogy, and I'm like, okay, well, we've already reached a certain, like, there's only so much that you and this character can do before I'm like, what's gonna happen in the next 2 books?
Yeah. When's he gonna die? When are you gonna die? Like, who's gonna die? Or like, or are we gonna do, I'm not gonna name it, but are we gonna do another plot twist where you don't love each other anymore and there's a different love interest, you know? So it's just like, what's gonna happen? And yeah, it's different. Like, I'm like, if this was a standalone book, like, this would make sense. But that aside, I just think there was too much smut in this book, personally, for, like, what I like reading. But, I mean, you know. So, stick around to hear more about that, because I have more, like, examples I want to out, but I don't. I want people to go and make that decision on their own. So we have a decision here. So let us know how you feel about it. Are you freaky like Aubrey, or are you prudish like me?
I don't, like, I read A Court of the Vampire Queen or whatever last month, and that was just all smut. Like, that was too much. There was zero plot in that book by Katie Roberts, and I don't know, like, that was my limit. But I think this was, like, the most amount of, like, smut in a book that still, like, makes sense for him. It kind of was like Silver Flames level.
Yeah, I guess because Silver Flames was so big that I felt like there was more room to space it out. But I will say, Silver Flames, there were times I was reading that book and I was like, this whole chapter is just about giving a blowjob. Like, I don't know, like, it just, after a while, and after, like, because I am mainly a romantasy reader, and like I said, I need smut. I like smut. I enjoy that. But after a while, you're like, oh, okay. Well, in the last chapter, you guys were having night sex, but now you're having morning sex.
Yeah, and it's like,
so now it's just like I just went through this, and now we're doing it again. So I'm like,
Yeah,
after a while,
there has to be like a balance of the tension versus the smut, because especially
and
like once they seal the deal, once they go so far, it's like, okay, we've hit that point. Yeah, and so it has to like makes it like, I mean, never mind, I'm not gonna say that because that's a spoiler for a different book. But
yeah, so
that being said, this is a very character-based story, and there were some characters that I really liked, and there are some characters that I'm kind of just waiting and like, I was like hoping they die. And I won't get into who yet. But my biggest thing that I want to say for this book is that I want to give props to JLA, because I was very excited going into this book, because it is traditionally published, to see how much what her work could be with an editor.
Yes, I was about to say that too.
Yes. And this, if you've read other JLA books, this book feels so much more sophisticated in its style and prose, and that is not just the work of an editor, because it's on a sentence level, and an editor makes your book a million times better, and I know that there was a bunch of stuff in this book that an editor helped her with, but they don't rewrite the entire book for you. And so I feel like JLA might have been trying to impress Tor and being like, okay, I'm traditionally published, it's a different series, I'm gonna really work on my prose, especially because she gets a lot of hate for it, which are valid criticisms. Like there's sometimes it's not good in the From Blood and Ash series, and I'm entertained, so I keep reading. But I want to give props, because this felt like such a like, I really love her stories for its entertainment value and her characters, and I think she does a lot of stuff really good, and seeing her match that in prose ability was so like, it was like a breath of fresh air. I was reading it and I was like, oh, she's like doing like the writing thing like good.
That's so funny, because I was thinking the same thing. I was like, this book is it's more thought out, and it doesn't feel like, I like the first 3 From Blood and Ash books a lot, but after that you're like, girl.
Yeah.
And they just start getting worse and worse, like writing wise. But even on Goodreads, like every 3rd review is like, this is what happens when JLA has a real editor. I know exactly where everyone was coming from, because it's just like it's just a better book. So
yeah,
exciting to see where this goes. And when Aubrey and I found out Tor created Bramble and Bramble picked up JLA, like this is where she fits in. She has good story ideas. I love her in the romantasy genre. She writes well. Her tried and true characters that she just copy and pastes in the best of ways. Yeah. It works. It's what we want to read. So, like, why not? Just throw a different name on them. Give them a little bit of a different power, and, like, let's send it, you know? Like,
that's just send it.
I do recommend reading this. In my head, I'm always like, am I going to make my mom read this? And I am going to make my mom read this. So, I recommend it. If I'm letting my mom read the book, you should read the book, too. If Mama's reading it, you can read it. So...
Mama Susan is reading it, then y'all are reading it too.
Because I hand select books for her. I read them and I'm like, this one. My sweet mama, read this one.
My mom hates fantasy, and that's all I read. And like, she just wants the smuttiest book you can give her, but that's just like a romance book. And so she just finished like the Twisted Love series, and she was like, what should I read next? And I was like, I read like 2-3 non-fantasy books this year. Actually, book club's making me read more, but they're not smutty books, and so she wouldn't want them.
Yeah. Oh, are those the Twisted ones? Are those the covers that are like white and then they have like different pastels?
It
looks it's like watercolor or something. I don't know. I think I know exactly what books you're talking about. Yeah, I see those kind of books and I'm like, one day, but I have I have some like backlog to go through here, so.
I'm just glad she's reading those, because she used to just read Colleen Hoover, and I was like, you need to try something
Progression.
else.
This is
Yeah.
growth
So
here.
it's okay. I mean, everyone has their genre, and my mom's is smutty romance books, and I support that. I just wish she'd read smutty romantasy books and also get like Wingspan and Fangs, because I think she'd really like it. But she's just like, I don't want any of that wing shit.
And I'm like, yes, shadows.
Like, yes.
Shadows, mind reading, intuition, yes. Okay. So, star reading wise, Aubrey,
Yes.
what are you thinking?
I gave this book, I think, 5 stars. I don't know.
Aubrey fashion, it's like always, I don't know.
I think it's a 4.5. Maybe I need to edit my Goodreads actually. I think the Delulu high of finishing the book made me do 5 stars. I think it's a 4.5 for a romantasy book.
Yeah.
If I'm comparing this to how I felt with like the first ACOTAR book, I definitely liked this more than I liked the first ACOTAR book. Okay. And then obviously as you go deeper into the series, you know, we'll see how this goes. JLA, that bitch knows how to do endings.
She does.
She knows how to end a fantasy book. And I always get to the end and I'm like, I need the next one. And then you sit with like the middle of character details, and she sprinkles in a little bit of sex scenes every now and then to keep you reading.
I literally cannot wait for the next book. The ending of this book just hurt me. Like, I just was like,
yes.
I flipped the last page and I was like, you gotta be shitting me. I'm gonna have to wait like a year for the next book. I'm like, this sucks. So I understand.
Payne was reading these. Yes, Payne was reading these so slow, and I was like, just wait till you get to like the last little bit, because she was in the car and she's like, I have 3 hours left, and I was like, okay, those last that last hour and a half is gonna be the quickest hour and a half of your life.
It was
like, yeah, like you just gotta get Brandon Sanderson, they call the endings of his book a Sander launch, like an avalanche, but like because he just like makes the ending super explosive, and JLA needs her own LA launch. That doesn't work.
The orange
launch.
I don't know. The Arm and Hammer.
All right, what did you get?
Okay, so this book to me would I like that you equated it to ACOTAR, because ACOTAR is kind of like a whirlwind. Like a lot of romance happened in that very fast too. I haven't done my Goodreads yet, but I will probably give it a 4 out of 5 stars. Okay. But in my heart, it's a 3.5 for all the reasons I just said. Mm-hmm. Now, I said, I am so excited to read the next book. Mm-hmm. I cannot wait. I think that this world that she built is very interesting. I think the cast of characters and how they relate to each other is very interesting, because there's a lot of political intrigue in this book, and there's a lot of corruptness as far as higher powers go. And I'm like, are those higher powers with or against each other? I have a lot of questions. So I'm very interested, but I will say, even though I love the two romance, who is in a relationship with each other, I love them, I do not like the rate at which they have fallen for each other and or maybe will continue to. So this is a 50-50 split for me, and that's why I feel like it deserves 4 to 5, and that's what you will see on my Goodreads. But in my heart, it's 4.5. So, but I recommend it. I hope this does not turn into a 1,000-book series like From Blood and Ash. I hope my girl stops at 3. Mm-hmm. 3 is a good number to stop at.
Tor, cut her off
after 3, but don't give it to us. Do not give it to us after 3. You stop at 3 and you stop right there. So don't turn into any prequel series. I don't want it. 3 is enough. That's what I'm happy with.
Yes.
So yes, I definitely recommend it, and I think you should read it and then give it to your mom to read.
Yes. All right, guys, we are going to be moving into our spoiler sections. There's also going to be some slight spoilers for the From Blood and Ash series. We reference it. It's JLA. It's both her books. I figure that if you were reading this book, the likelihood is that you've read the other one. I don't think we do any like groundbreaking spoilers, but there's definitely spoilers, especially for the first book.
Yes, yep. So just proceed with caution. But yeah, we're not spoiling the whole series by any means.
No.
There's just a lot of copy and paste characters here.
So if you have not read this book and you do not want it spoiled for you, go now, because we are going to say the name of the male love interest because you don't know it for half of the book, and you know that's just going to be spoiled for you in 3, 2, 1. Thorn. His name's Thorn, and I don't know why we keep it a secret. I mean, I guess because when she found out that he was the prince.
Yeah,
but like the fact that we don't know his name for so long is like, I was just like,
okay, thank you that we don't know his name, because we were like in sex scenes or like I forget where we were at, and I was like, okay, I know I'm speed reading this book, and I know maybe I'm a bad reader right now and I'm missing stuff, but why the fuck don't I know what his name is? Because I was like, oh, like, you know, like Callista, oh Liz, that's such a cute name, blah blah blah. She's talking, and I'm like, wait, what's his name? Did I miss it? Am I missing something? And no, I wasn't. We just don't know who he is. I do like the whole like mystery behind him. It like kept reading, like, who are you? And I love how this book started with her like younger, with her and Brady. Oh wait, is it Brady or Grady?
Grady.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a fantasy thing. Why? Just put the B. Why does it have to be G? But anyways, her and Grady are like have like he's so gay, but they're just like in their bed together, and it's like so cute. They're like brother and sister, and he's like protecting her, and then he like comes to her and he like moves on, and you know that like. So I'm like, I cannot wait for that conversation in the next book when they talk about that. But
yeah, because he still doesn't know.
No. Do you think he actually knows?
No, because
you don't?
I don't think he knows, because her intuition kept telling her not to tell him. And I feel like that's because okay. You were saying about how you think that the relationship progressed too far, and I would be right there on like the fucking mark with you if it wasn't for that very, very end where we find out that she's like not his mate, but like kind of his mate. She might actually use the word mate. What does she use?
Yeah, she uses yeah, it's like a mate, because his his heart
she was born when he awoke.
Yes. And so that's why I thought that was why he called her Nala.
Yeah, I don't know why he's calling her. Okay, so
because the guy was like, "Wait, he called you that?"
There's so many threads. But I don't think he knows why he's so attracted to her, and the fact that she is this like mate person to him, because they were saying that person can kill him. Like that person is the one and only person ability to kill him, which is totally straight from Fire and Flesh. Like the idea of like falling in love can kill you, except now it's just like only one chosen person. But because her intuition kept telling her not to tell him, and if he knew already, like I don't think it would have mattered. But I think he was searching for that person that was born when he awoke, which is also why it's called the awakening, I think, because like they're not born, they just like kind of like pop out of the ground like a little beach.
It is interesting because there's like a moment of dialogue where they're like, why do you like me? He goes, I don't know why I like you, dude. I don't know. I'm like, I feel like I have to protect you, and I feel like I have to like look out for you, and like he cares about like her bruises, and she's like, it's nothing, and he's like, who bruised you? And that's like the typical like male, you know, type for
who did this to you,
like sort of thing. So like I feel like he knows without knowing.
Yeah, like he won't admit to himself to knowing, but if she told him, then he couldn't hide from it anymore.
And it's also like maybe he's in denial. Like he's a smart dude. Like he has powers. So it's kind of like, I really like her, and I don't want to face the reality that I have to kill her because I like her. And I mean, obviously he found her when she was younger and then moved on. Like he
because
could have just killed her.
He didn't know it was her. Remember when he got there?
Glamored. I understand that. But she's like my highborn lord. Like that's what she called him.
Yeah.
So, anyways, I don't know what's gonna happen, but I'm interested. I'm super excited.
Yeah. I feel like he has the emotional connection to her that's telling him that she is this person to him. However, she kind of lied to him about her past, and because the glamour was so strong, whoever is his mate is supposed to be a highborn. And because she's not, he's like, I don't know who the fuck you are, but you couldn't possibly be this person, even though I'm having these feelings towards you, because he couldn't see through the glamour.
Yeah, but he also, if I need to remember this correctly, but so lowborn, no. So lowborn can lie, but highborn cannot lie.
Yeah.
But she does lie, which would,
because she's not a highborn, she's a Calicia.
Well, that's what they think.
Whatever the Baron
is. It's when a highborn and a lowborn mate, and they make that. That's what they think she is. But then, of course, there's this no, she's more than that. She's this ancient. She's ancient powers.
Right.
Which we'll figure out in the next book.
So that's another thing. There's so many I read an interview between JLA and some other, I don't know, news people that were talking about fantasy world building. And she's like, yeah, I know there's a lot of fantasy tropes that overlap, so I try to make my books feel unique. And girl, you didn't hit that mark. I mean, I love you, and I love this book. But, so, Liz is obviously going to be some, ancient race thing that has magical powers, just like Poppy, just like Sarah.
Yeah.
We're introduced with the guy, and he's you have this idea that he's a low, not as cool as he actually is, and then you later find out he's the top of the food chain, just like what happened to Poppy and Sarah. Which is why I was like, why did we not know his name this whole time? You could have given him a fake name, just like we did with Hawk and Ash. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, that. Also, let's just go back to, he calls her Nala Castile Lisa, okay? What else? Oh, he smells like sandalwood. He smells and tastes like honeydew, okay?
Yeah.
Okay, same damn thing. There are so many parallels in this book. I was like, okay, so I'm just reading the same, damn book again. That's fine. Yeah. But, she's really committing to her plot lines.
Yeah.
She knows what her people eat up. And if I was, I don't know, I just, as someone who has a book podcast and someone who reads a lot of different genres, I'm just I see what you're doing. This is just the same person.
Yeah. They're different books, but it's so similar.
Yes. Yeah. I was reading some reviews and they were like, okay, well, Thorn just reads Castile. It's kind of the same idea. He's a prince. And I bet your bottom dollar that Liz will end up being more powerful.
What? No way.
Because what else has happened thus far in all JLA books? The girl ends up he's supposed to be this I kill people for fun sort of mentality. This bitch is gonna be able to turn people's minds inside out by the end of this book, the next book.
Yes.
I know she is. And she has her dagger just like Poppy does. The Bloodstone dagger, and here it's the Lunier blade or whatever.
Yeah.
Shut the fuck up. Come on. I have to laugh at it. I love it. And if those parts weren't part of the book, I think I wouldn't like it as much. So I'm not here to criticize it. I'm just here to bring attention to it.
Yeah, we just wanna laugh a little bit. It's from Blood and Ash, I think was more entertaining, but this is better written. And then, like, it's the same book. You just gotta pick one. You gotta pick if you want to have, like, a good old campy, smutty time, or if you want to have, like, a well-written, deeper character-based smutty time.
If you're looking for a book that makes you feel the same way as From Blood and Ash, just read this one. Like,
there you go.
Well, people are like, if on TikTok, it's like, if you liked ACOTAR, read
like
this and this. Well, if you like From Blood and Ash, just read A Fall of Ruin and Wrath. You'll feel great.
If you read From Blood and Ash and you were like, this is not written well, I wish it wasn't indie published, here you go. This book is for you.
The solution.
Tor really said From Blood and Ash is doing really good. We're not going to just have the same book, but can you write us the same book in a different font that we can have? And she said, yes.
I do think it'd be fun to jump into some of the best Thorn moments.
Okay, yes.
I love, well, first, here's my cringiest one. When he saves her and he's talking about how highborns have healing properties. So, like, that's why lowborns, like, that's why the whole black market thing is, like, a thing. Because people can use it, like, fingers and toes help, like, grow. When he was talking about, and he used the word cock, may I add, and he's like, my cock, and she goes, your cock. And he's like, yes. I hate the word cock, by the way, so I'm so uncomfortable saying it. I'm like cringing. He's like, yes, it gives couples like prosperous like lives together, like a happy union. And I'm just like, of course, like it wouldn't be a smutty JLA book if we couldn't just pass past the penis talk. We had to talk about it, and everyone I've like talked to, they're like, yeah, no, it's that part. I was like, of course.
I didn't like that part. Even worse is he also talks about his like semen. And here's my thing. Is my biggest pet peeve is that if this is a fucking romance book and we are going to use the word cum, spell it correctly. Why is it spelled like I just come into the door? You know what? No.
Okay, so like am I,
you know what I mean?
Like, am I stupid? Because I was so confused that cum was spelled K-O-M-E in this book that I asked Robert,
C-O-M-E,
my boyfriend.
Right?
I was like, okay, so is this like a slang word? You know what I mean? Like, did we as a society change the way it is spelled to make it more like distinguishable? Like to like be like, oh, they're talking about semen, not just like, oh yeah, come inside, not like come inside. You know what I mean? So like I'm confused.
Wait, did you just say K-O-M?
No, K-U-M.
Wait, but
no, C-U-M.
I swear C-U-M. In mine,
it's
cum is supposed to be spelled C-U-M. C-U-M.
Yes, sorry.
I swear in this book it's spelled C-O-M-E.
Correct. You are right. What you just said is completely correct. In the book, they C-O-M-E, but it's C-U-M.
Yes.
I didn't mean
and
to
I don't.
If I did.
Why in a romance book, like if you're gonna use the word, use the fucking word. Like or
I'm
like
sorry.
do a SJM and say his seed.
Yeah, his seed. People use both C-O-M-E and C-U-M as a verb to mean the experience of having an orgasm or ejaculation.
That's wrong.
That's wrong. I'm sorry, but you're confusing us. Like when they said like he's like, oh yeah, come for me. Why?
Yeah.
Why? Like just spell it the way everyone else does. Like I don't know if that's like the proper literary way to do it, but I'm sorry, when you're deep in sex land, literary devices get thrown out the window, okay? There's nothing, so sometimes these scenes are just dirty. There's nothing romantic about them. There's nothing sweet. No. Sure, like divine rivals, if they want to throw, sure, like use the proper pretty looking No, you are
Yeah.
doing dirty talk in your scenes. You
Yes.
put CUM, okay?
Yes.
And I think that's why,
dirty
like, how
talk.
Sarah J. Maas uses the word seed, because it's kind of cringy, but it's like fantasy. Like, you don't have that like mix of real world. So yeah, I agree with you. I thought the same thing. That's so funny.
That was. It was just like, it bothers me. I'm like, just use the correct spelling of
It
this.
is
Like,
so
commit.
funny that we brought that up, because I literally looked up for my book and I asked my boyfriend. I was like, "Am I wrong?" And he goes, "Yeah, like, no, you're not. Like, it's CUM." So that's so funny.
Yeah.
Come talk aside. Yeah,
So.
when they were talking about the black mark and body parts, and then he went to the cock, and I'm like, okay. But then when he went to the semen, I was like, come on.
Well, and I feel like he was trying to be like flirty and fun about it, and I could see that written differently to come off flirty and fun, because I do love the fantasy world building bit of like them being part of the world and the magic, and their body parts like doing these like cool things. But it just came off cringy. Like, I was just like, okay, anyways, what do your eyeballs do?
I'm like, okay, let's move on. Like, regenerate your shit and let's go. Like, come on. But I did think it was funny how, like, okay, but then, like, he's an enigma to me, because he's like this all being like destroys and like kills people without like caring. Yet he got captured and was like pierced with the heart. Like, bitch, like, you almost died if she wouldn't have gotten to you.
Well, I think they did say later, yeah, because I was so certain that he was not gonna be like I think based off the way the book ended, he's definitely gonna be like our only love interest in this series. Yeah. But I was so convinced that that wasn't going to be the case, because at the beginning, like, I loved the way that worked, but it made him feel weak. And they were like, oh, he still would have like woken up and he wouldn't have died. But, like, I don't know, to see him, like, that down, that low, I was so confused. And I wish he would have done more in explaining how he got to that point, because I think what happened was he was poisoned by one of his other highborn buddies, like someone that he thought he could trust, and that's what weakened him to the state that the humans could, like, do that shit to him. Yeah. But, like, also, if you're gonna be the fucking prince, if you are like the stupid king, and you can just get like roofied a little bit and then you're down for the count, like, where is my, like, you know what I mean? Like, if you're gonna be that bitch, be that bitch.
Yeah, I was like, oh, like, seriously, looking back and knowing how powerful he is now, you're just like, really? You're that stupid?
Yeah.
Yeah. So once they left and like he kind of like came in and out of the story, like, I enjoyed that. But then when he showed up, and this was kind of, people were getting angry at this, how like Claude, the Baron or whatever, in charge, I didn't hate him. I feel like he respected her to a certain extent. Like, I don't hate him. I don't love him, but a lot of times, like, in these books, usually we're like, well, he deserved to die anyways. He took advantage of her and blah, blah, blah. Like, she served his purpose, but she also knew, like, she was being protected and, like, she was okay with it.
Yeah.
Like, she was okay.
I like the way that JLA wrote this, that they're kind of prostitutes, kind of not, because it's not like for money, and like they're doing, like, it walked that line where there were some times where she's like, I can just say no, but she doesn't actually feel like she can say no. And so there were instances that walked the line, but I did feel like all of her interactions with Claude, like, she was definitely like always like, it was a good relationship between the two of them. There was a power dynamic, and he manipulated her because he didn't tell her his suspicions about her being whatever. But I feel like that's like a morally gray line. Yeah, he definitely protected her. And him being like, oh, I gave you to Thorn because he can give you everything. Like, I liked it.
Yeah.
But then he ran away like a little bitch. Yeah. I'm excited to see him again.
I thought in the book, when Heimel she was like, where's Claude?
Yeah.
Where's Claude? And he goes, you know where Claude is. And I think she had she looked out the window and saw all the dead bodies. So like there was like a key to that he's dead. I could have.
I thought he ran away.
She said like, well, did he run away knowing Claude and like how he's kind of a wuss, and he's like, you know what happened to him. Just look around you, like something like that. I wish I could just like pull that up and read it, but I don't know where in the book it is.
I feel like if we didn't see his body, he has a chance to have survived. Yes, like even if that was insinuated, I feel like the likelihood is he did run away because she couldn't find him all day. Yeah, like, he wasn't even just at the end there. And then I thought that Heimel had like tied him up and stuff like that.
Yeah, I thought she'd find his body.
But then we didn't see the body. They didn't admit to anything like that.
Books, so like that's a true thing. Like never until we see the body, and even then, you never know if they're dead. So I'm led to believe that he is dead, but I wouldn't be surprised if he shows up somehow. So yeah, it was funny because in the book, like just like having preconceived notions about like the character like Claude. I think of Poppy and I'm like, wow, those people suck. It's like the Duke in Poppy's story where like we were happy he died, so I was like, oh, this guy sucks. So I'm like, wait, actually no, he doesn't. Like he's not that bad. And it makes sense why Poppy was like Poppy, oh my gosh. Liz was like
same thing.
Yeah, same thing. It's like, yeah, like it sucks, but like I'm safe and like I'm happy. Like I'm good. He uses me, but like I also she lives in like a beautiful place and like has food and comfort, and that's all she can ask for. Someone who was raised an orphan. So yeah,
she's not even like scraping by but still living in like a house. Like no, she's in like a fucking estate. She's living like a luxurious life.
Exactly.
She's gonna cling to that.
Yeah, so when Thorne shows up and that whole scene like when she's in the dark and he like pushes her against the wall, like that was kind of hot. And then he like
I'll give him to that one.
Yeah, I'll give yeah, I did. I was like, okay. When
okay.
Slit her throat. But so when he's like, I want her to be my I want her to accompany me during my stay, and his stay was like 2 days. But whatever. She was like, I don't want to do that. And she's like, they didn't even ask me. Like, girl, relax. Like,
yeah.
People are having issues with that. I'm like, he did ask you. But you wanted this.
I feel like, I don't know, that like lesson in consent and stuff like that. Like, I feel like there's a point there where I'm like, this is a fantasy book. If it doesn't fully match up to my 2023 real life levels of like consent, I feel like that's fine to a certain point. And like, you know what I mean? Like sometimes it's just like, no, this is a fantasy book. And I feel like she shouldn't have thrown that hissy fit. Now, when she got to his room, she could have been like, I'm accompanying you, but don't touch me.
But she wanted to. Like she the whole book she's like, yes, Claude, I'll do whatever you want. I'll do whatever you want. But now when he's entering the picture, she's like, no. Like what?
Someone she's obsessed with.
And that's the one thing that I know. And she even's like, I don't know why I was so upset. Like,
yeah, it was weird.
Yeah, like that's just another thing. I'm like, why? I don't think it needed to be in the book. I think she could have made a comment like, wow, you think you can just instruct me to do whatever you want? And he could be like, yes, I can. And then like,
yeah,
he can be a little.
I would have rather seen. Yeah, I would have rather seen
or something, you know.
her like moody and like in the room and being like, you bought me, I'm here, but I'm not gonna fucking talk to you. I'm not gonna, you know, like attitude there, than being like, this is not gonna happen because you did not even ask me.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Shut the fuck up. You're in a fantasy world. He's the fucking prince.
Exactly. And there's a lot of times in the book they're like, I can't believe you talked to the prince that way. And she's like, yeah. And she's like, yeah, you're right. I don't know why I do. And it's It's so stupid.
Oh, JLA's quirky characters. Yeah, I know this could get me killed. Oh, an ick for me was when she was like, okay, I do make reckless decisions a lot. And she's like, in her head, she's like, I'm just like kind of like quirky and reckless, and I like make bad decisions.
Yeah.
And I'm like, shut the fuck. Like, just JLA struggles with like telling rather than showing.
Yeah.
And it's such a huge thing. Like, let me come to the conclusion that she's being a reckless, stupid bitch. Stop having her be like, I'm just a little quirky fun. Like, I just keep like doing things I shouldn't. Haha.
Yeah. And it's so fun. And then she's like, Your Highness. And he's like, don't call me that.
Yeah.
And then eventually, like, she, like, they're like mid-sex, or like it's at the end when we go through a chapter worth of her having an orgasm. And she's like, you're hot, Thorn. And I'm like,
Stop it. I like how he corrects her every time she says Your Highness, and he goes Thorn, and he like was doing that, like the dinner table with like Claude, her, him, Boss, and the other dude, the commander. That I loved that scene. Like, just him being like, you're calling her Nala, and then it's like you're trying to have her call you Thorn, and they're like, what the fuck is going on? This is just some lowborn bitch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and I will say, I love when she goes to her room and his like boy comes and he's like, hey, Thor wants to see you. And she's like, you can tell Thor to go shove it up his ass. I'm not coming. Like, and then she's like, Thor, he goes, yeah, he hates when we call him that. Like, it gave me Castile Azrael vibes. And I loved it. I was like, yes, I hope he comes back. Oh, I guess I should say in JLA world. I'm sorry, everyone. Kieran vibes. I just like, I loved it. And I was like, this fucking rocks. And then when she called him Thor and he's like, excuse me. Like, that's the shit I died for.
Yeah.
Like, that, like, funny romance, high tension, like, sort of thing. Like, I love it.
Yeah.
And I forget his name.
Bastian?
Yeah.
Was the dude.
Bastian, Cassian, like, come on. Like, literally. But that's probably why I said Cassian, because he literally acts like Cassian. And I'm sorry if no one's ever read Sarah J. Maas, but
there's a lot of
a character that it's copy paste.
Yeah. There is a lot of Bible names in this freaking book. Like, I'm like, why are you using that name?
Because she's trying to be like fancy.
I'm like, am I supposed to be like taking these people as references for Bible characters? Because girl does not know those. Like, I need to do a quick Google search and remember who like Bastian. I think Bastian's like a bad guy, like a demon. I'm sorry. In the Bible, maybe something like that.
Theology here. Our theology.
And like Hymelin, he's like the bad king in the Bible, and he's also the bad king in ACOTAR, and it's just straight copy and paste. Like, the second they saw his name, I was like, oh, well, that's a bad guy. Like, you give him a bad guy name.
Yeah. So, going off of that, the political intrigue in this book really picks up at the end. I almost called her Poppy again. Liz is walking somewhere, and she has this, I was going to say premonition. Is that even a word? Like,
it's not used in the books, but premonition is like legit what it is.
Okay.
I don't know why she doesn't use it.
She has this vision, and every time this girl has this, she's looking for Claude. She can't find Claude, and she like picks the lock, and she's like, thank God I know all these skills of years on the streets. Like, she's taking her head. She's like, thank God. And I was like, shut up. And she goes into the room. And she's like looking for him, and she's like, we sat on that couch together, and he's such a slob. The first day we woke up, and we had breakfast in bed, and I was like, shut up. So I was waiting to find him dead. Like, I built him to this point, but then she has that vision, And every time she has a vision, I never know she's having a vision until like I'm in the vision, like, and it's outlandish things happening. But I just imagine like that's so Raven, like the eye where it's like, like if there's ever a movie, it's gonna be that's so Raven, like the whole.
I picture Phoebe from Charmed because she touched things and she go.
Yeah, like that. Like you're in the room with Callista and she's just like, she's like, ah! But I think the way they describe it is she's just like has like a blank stare. Like she's just like this.
Yeah.
But anyway,
she just disassociates for a minute.
Yeah. So this kind of is like the beginning of the end of the book where we find out that there's gonna be slaughter tomorrow. And so I love how she goes and saves Naomi, but then obviously has lied to her this whole time. She's like, yeah, your sister's her fever will heal, but not to saying like she's gonna die by the feast. And Naomi's like, you lied to me. She goes, I didn't. You asked if she'd heal from her fever, and she does. She dies. Like,
Naomi's like, you knew what I meant.
You knew what I meant. And like, I would be mad too. Like, I'd be like, yes, your sister heals from her fever, but then she dies. Like, yeah, you know what? My back hurts right now, but if I'm dead, yeah, I won't have back pain anymore because I'll be dead. Like,
and you know what? In the moment, because that happens in like the first chapter or like the second chapter, and I was like, okay, I see like why, like you don't want to upset her, but like also she's asking so she can cherish the time with her sister she has left, and you just straight up like should have told her. Yeah. But then also she like made her so mad so that way she goes home to her sister who she knows going to die horribly during the feast. Like, do you really think that's the safest spot for her? Like, I mean, obviously the estate wasn't a safe spot for Naomi either. Yeah. But like, I don't know, just sending her to your sister who you know for sure is going to brutally die.
Yeah, and they even say that the whole like town, village, whatever city was on fire. The whole thing. So I'm like, are you really saving her? I do think Naomi will come back. I do. I think she's a character that will be in the books. She reminds me of like a Tawny. So we're from Bud and Ash, like once again copy paste, but like sexy, like, you know.
I liked the bi rep where like they like had Naomi and her had a sex scene, and then she like, I was like, oh, this is new.
That chapter took me. I was reading late at night and I was like, wait, what's happening? I was like, oh, this is fun. This is different. So going into the politics really pop off. She's like looking at it's the feast. She doesn't really want to be there, but she is. She thinks Thorne's gonna be back. By the way, like, where the fuck was he during all of this? She's like looking up at the sky. And
we don't know.
Oh. Oops. She's like running. She's like, y'all need to get out of here. She's looking for Grady. Every time I say Grady, I think of Gritty, which is Gritty is. We're from the Philadelphia area, and the Flyers, their mascot is Gritty.
Yeah.
Look it up. So every time I say Grady, I just think Gritty. So just. Anyway.
I hated him.
You don't like Grady?
No. Grady annoyed me because the thing is that I didn't ever feel connected to him. Like in the prologue, I was like, oh, this is a bestie. Like, I really liked that relationship. I like the idea of showing like a female and male friendship that's just friendship. And I mean, he's got to be at least bi or okay with having like, because Naomi and Grady slept together.
Yeah.
So like, he's not just straight gay, I guess.
Okay, so like, I don't like assuming, because I was like, when it was very clear that there was no romance between Grady and Callista, I was like, oh, okay. But how would you know? Like, because they said that about a certain, I'm not going to make spoilers, but something fourth. And I was like, oh, like, sure, like, fuck off. Like,
yeah.
But so yeah. But they did talk about, she's like, when you were with Ethan or Alex or like whatever this guy was. And I was like, okay, so definitely
He's open, but it seems like this world, most people are open. I don't think we've met anyone who's like one gender for me, kind of vibe.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just felt like all of the scenes we had with him, she's like spilling her guts out. She's saying like she's unfiltered. She's not keeping secrets from him. And I'm like, girl, he is definitely a part of the rebellion already. Like he is already there. He is a part of the Knight's Order. There's no way he's not in my mind. You can't convince me.
Do you think he's gonna betray her?
Maybe, and maybe that's why I don't like him, because I don't want to like him, because I feel like, like I feel like he's just giving this energy of being like, oh, I've actually been a part of the rebellion the whole time. You have this relationship with the
prince.
Also, how did he survive? I mean, I guess now that they're connected by these, I don't know. I just feel like it was a miss for me. He was who I wanted to die.
Really?
It's just like, oh, you could die, and like she'd feel sad and motivated to do stuff.
Yeah, it would give her the motivation to fight for him.
Yeah.
And then it's hard.
But now she
got like protection thing, like when the book when they like, oh well, there's a couple things. What's that girl's name? Alyssa or something.
The main character?
No, it's Callista. For Allison or something.
Allison.
Library. They're like, we're gonna go to the line. Yeah. We'll drink all night. We'll get drunk and wait them out. And then there's and at the window, and Sanborn or whatever his name looks up, and I just imagined, like, I got like kind of like scared, like I was reading a thriller when like he sensed that they were looking, and then they run into the library, and she's like, don't come out, whatever you do, stay hidden, don't listen to them. And then the old guy like runs into a closet, which is he's still in there. Like, I don't know if I read something that he came out of, but he didn't. Like, he's still hidden, like that old guy. But she knew, because she was wearing Naomi's necklace, that she was gonna die.
Yeah.
And then of course when they all get in there, her and Grady are hiding together, of course. And he's like, are you sure you're not gonna hurt me? And then he like continues to like break her arms.
Yeah.
And then and then Liz is like, I'm gonna go, and Grady's like, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. And she fucking does it, of course. And then they kill her, of course.
I feel like they also should have been able to smell Liz.
Yeah, like
I don't know, like if they're in the same room, I feel like you shouldn't be able to hide from the like this other like highborn prince person. Yeah.
I will say that it hurts to read, of course, but I like that JLA made them come off as so ruthless, and like they don't take no fucks, because when they go to that inn and they're like having sex with everyone there, and then they get out and like everyone's dead. Like, I think that's gonna add a lot of fuel to the fire.
Yes.
I like that, and because it's fantasy, I like that intensity where it's like, guess what? Like, no, they literally will just kill whoever they want. Like,
this is not a half-ass situation. She committed to it, and I feel like we hold back sometimes because our like love interest is also one of them, and I'm like, no, show how bad it can be. Yeah, and I really like respected that. So, I mean, you all have read the book already, so you understand, but I do, and her like, I love the whole like, obviously she's not gonna run away because they have Grady locked up, and they know like they're seeing her as like a prisoner, not like they're rescuing her, not as a prisoner like Grady is. Yeah. So I'm interested to see where this goes. We know that they're separated now, and this whole time I'm thinking, where the fuck is Thorn? Yes. Like, where did he go? Like, I don't know. I was waiting. Yeah. Well, he's in the last chapter. Thorn's in the last chapter.
Yeah, that's where it ends. Because basically, she's riding on the horse of that motherfucker. He goes like, ugh, and he has like an arrow between his head. And she starts running. And he goes, he does the infamous, I told you I'd catch you. Like, it's creepy. It's creepy, but it works. I'm here for it.
I loved that. I
Yeah.
felt like, okay, so the first time before like shit goes down, when she like runs from him and then they have like sex for the first time, I was like, oh, like I liked this idea of like this tension between them of prey and predator and her always wanting to run and knowing
Yeah,
he's
it
gonna
was a little
catch her.
cringy with her just running mid-sex though, but it's all
But
right.
yeah, like when she decided to just run and he hadn't like I wish he would have said something that like spooked her, and then she would have been like finally afraid and ran, and then we could have had the sexy moment. And I was like, oh, it felt a little rushed to have her run that first time.
Yeah.
But for that to have happened, so that way at the last chapter when she turns and she runs and he's like a raven and then he like transforms, I was like, oh, which is another JLA like stolen thing of like them being a creature, but that's fine. I loved that. I loved the parallels. It made that first scene work for me in retro, like looking back on it, because of that parallels. Like I was like, oh no, this worked. And it made sense. The book, I have the Barnes & Noble exclusive version because the red matched my bookshelves better than the blue. But like it's got like the raven on it and like, and I was like, what the fuck is this bird? Or like crow or raven? Like, what is this bird doing on this page? I was like, it had nothing to do with anything in the book until the very end.
And they even said like the like ravens like silent, like she saw a raven and started running. And then the last page is Nala. He whispered, "You should have known better than to run. I will always catch you." And then she said, "A woodsy soft smell surrounded me, the scent of ... sandalwood." Whatever. And then she goes, "Of him, my highborn prince, my salvation and my doom." Because, and I want to end here, she has her premonition, that's a raven moment, where he kills her through the heart.
That would be so sick if that happens. But then it's also like how she's then like vampire like reborn into like something cooler. But I would love for next book to kind of be like from Blood and Ash 2, where there's like he's like the villain now again. And I think that also would help explain why the romance feels so heightened and so quick in this first book.
Yeah.
Because they're gonna be like very enemies next book, and so I'm excited to see like it, but like I hope that she commits to it. I hope he seems like really bad and she like really hates him and they have like maybe like hate sex or something like that. Like I want him to kill her and mean it. And then like the third book being them like her is like this sick ass creature, like ancient thing, and then like coming together again. Like that would be my perfect arc. Falling in love in the first book, it feels a little fast, but because the second book, you are so enemies, like trenched in enemies. I don't want to see I don't want a hint of lovers in this second book. I want full enemies. I want him to kill her and mean it and hate her and be so scared that like he has to kill her because otherwise she's going to kill him. And then I want in the third book for them to come back together when she's some badass.
And then like destroy all the kingdoms and like
start over.
And start over. Yeah. Because there's that the whole idea of like the gods destroyed or left like 9 whatever. So like obviously these like powers are gonna come back, and like Poppy fashion, she'll probably be the primal of whatever. So or whatever Poppy is, we don't know. But anyway, so yeah. That is all I have. Those are our theories.
Yes.
Like I said, hopefully this does not turn into a 1,000-book series like from Blood and Ash. Please, I'm praying. 3, keep it at 3.
Please, leave it at 3.
So yeah, but that's all we have time for today. Let us know how you felt about this new JLA series. It was unexpected this year, and we read it. So this is just a new series we will continue to review as the books come out. And as always, if there's anything else you would like us to cover, please let us know.
Yes. All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining us, and happy reading.